to Atlanta in 2001, and before that I'd moved 6 times in 7 years. I figured it out, and from 1991 to 2001, I lived in 15 different houses, or types of houses. So I did the math. That's an average of a move every 9 months. I really got good at it, you know, moving around. I kind of was able to line up the things that I knew I needed before I went. Before I moved, I'd find out where the nearest supermarket was, find out where the nearest vet was, the nearest hospital, pharmacy. I knew how to pack, I knew how to load, I knew how to unload. I knew what boxes we weren't going to unpack. And I still have those boxes 8 years later. They're still in the garage because they're the boxes that we don't unpack. One of these years I'm going to have to unpack them probably. Yeah, I know. It's terrifying. Someday my kids are going to probably go through that. Be like, what are they thinking? One of those moves was to Washington, D.C. in 1999. A buddy of mine from college, 10 years before, Matt, he lived there. So I got there and I called him up. And I told him where I was, and he told me where he was. It turned out we were about 4 miles apart. Now in D.C., that's still like an hour's drive. But it's still pretty close. It was pretty cool. And I lived there for a year. And yet, Matt and I didn't really get together that much. And we were good friends in college. We got together all the time. We just didn't see each other that much. And there were a couple different reasons for that. One of them was that I moved so much I kind of forgot how to have friends. That wasn't so good. One of them was that I was working in a church, and that was not. I'll put it that way. But another part of it was that when we were in college, we had a group of friends, and we would all go do stuff together. And so we had shared interests. We had common activities, things we did together. I moved to D.C., and I had my life. He was in D.C., he had his life, and there was nothing that connected us. There was no community that we were a part of, like we were in college. And community, you know, if you've moved a bunch, you know what I mean. What it's like to have friends, and how hard it can be to make friends and find new friends and start those relationships, but also how hard it is to find a community, to find a bunch of people that you are interconnected with. And yet, God gives us a vision of what that's like when we find that community. That's really wonderful. And so that's our topic for today. How we move in relationships towards community. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read for you something from the Bible. And I want to invite you to just sit in your chair. Maybe you want to close your eyes and just listen to these words and picture this in your mind. And we're going to have a time for quiet afterwards when you hear the chime. Come back to worship. The human body has many parts, but the many parts only make up one body. So it is with the body of Christ. Some of us are Jews, some are Gentiles, some are slaves, some are free. We have all been baptized into Christ's body by one Spirit, and we have all received the same Spirit. Yes, the body has many parts, not just one part. The foot says, I am not a part of the body because I am not a hand. That does not make it any less a part of the body. And if the ear says, I am not part of the body because I'm only an ear and not an eye, would that make it any less part of the body? Suppose the whole body were an eye. How would you hear? Or if your whole body were just one big ear, how could you smell anything? But God made our bodies with many parts, and He has put each part just where He wants it. What a strange thing a body would be if it had only one part. The eye can never say to the hand, I don't need you. The head can't say to the foot, I don't need you. In fact, some of the parts that seem weakest and least important are really the most necessary. And the parts we regard as less honorable are those we clothe with the greatest care. So we carefully protect from the eyes of others those parts that should not be seen, while other parts do not require this special care. God has put the body together in such a way that extra honor and care are given to those parts that have less dignity, so that all the members care for each other equally. If one part suffers, all the parts suffer with it. And if one part is is honored